1 second. I think it's catching up. Hello, baddies.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, Jasmine?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's Friday's Eve, man. You know how we always get to one of these days. I can't wait for the weekend. It's been a long week.
It really has been. It has been. Well, this is like a surprise, though, right? Because you weren't expecting to see us here tonight.
Right, exactly.
But, we're excited. This is our first MBC Baddie webinar. The content was all driven by our MBC Baddies Ambassadors, the speakers selected by our MBC Baddies Ambassadors. We were hoping to have it hosted by our MBC Baddies Ambassadors, but honestly, so many of our Baddie Ambassadors are dealing with their own personal health and family issues. And so the women that we have on here tonight, we are so thankful for their time and their energy and for the love that went into getting this ready, because our hope for this year is that we are definitely more intentional in allowing our MBC Baddies driving the conversation, the content that they feel is necessary for their community, as opposed to us doing that. And this is our first step in that direction.
Right. Yeah. And we are, like you said, so thankful for our MBC Baddies that definitely stepped up to the plate and wanted to bring to light some of the things that they would like to talk about and what they hear within their own communities of women who are living with metastatic breast cancer. So I'm really excited for some of the conversations that are going to happen tonight. And I know for myself and you as well, Jasmine, metastatic breast cancer is something that we definitely champion for. Unfortunately, we know a lot of women who are living with metastatic breast cancer, and we have had a few friends who sadly passed away from MBC. And so it is definitely one of our goals to definitely push that forward and make sure that their voices are heard even louder than everyone else who has been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Absolutely. And so tonight we're doing something a little different because our original co-host, they weren't able to make it. We'll be able to be here for the duration. We're bringing on a special co-host. Is one of our MBC Baddie Ambassadors. I don't think she's ever been on a Baddies Talk Back or webinar with us yet. Her name is Camila, and Camila Robinson, aka Cam, is a 38-year-old native of North Carolina. She was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer on April 2nd, 2019. She was later diagnosed stage 4 metastatic breast cancer the day before her birthday, December 12th, 2019. Camila is a bold, talented, and fierce woman who does not look at cancer as a curse, but a blessing. Sounds crazy, right? Camila has turned this negative into a positive by learning to truly love herself. She has embraced this journey and allowed it to force her to be the dope woman that she was meant to be. Fear has never been and will never be an option. Camila thrives on encouraging other women, researching and learning about breast cancer, and maintaining her beauty inside and out. Camila loves makeup and has a sharp eye for fashion. She loves to cook, enjoys spending time with her family, and has begun a fitness and healthy living journey. Camila is excited to share her journey with us tonight. Let's welcome Camila to the screen.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Oh, you're on mute, boo.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you all?
Good. It's good to see your face this evening.
Yes. I'm glad to be here.
So it was very important to us. So, we built the Accomplice Guide, and the Accomplice Guide was initially just for the conversation of white women for women of color. But I think it could be used for any community where you want to assist, but you don't necessarily represent that community. So we could not have this conversation without having an MBC Baddie lead that conversation. I said our initial plan wasn't for us to be a part of the conversation at all. But now that we're here as a conversation, we want to make sure that we have the right representation, to make sure that we're asking the right questions. And so we are so happy to have you here with us tonight, Cam.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to switch it up a little bit tonight. Instead of doing therapeutic art, the theme for tonight is breathe. So Lesley Glenn, our MBC Baddie Ambassador, she's gonna get us in the right mood for that. Marissa, can you go ahead and do the intro for Lesley?
So Lesley was diagnosed with early stage invasive ductal carcinoma, ER/PR positive and HER2 negative, stage 2B breast cancer in 2012, and then with metastatic disease in 2013 at the age of 47. Lesley is a native Hawaiian born and raised, and now lives in Southern Oregon with her husband of 29 years and their 2 rescue pups. She has been an active advocate within the MBC community for the past 6 years and is the co-founder of the annual Climb for a Cure. Lesley is passionate about the healing capacity of nature, therapeutic art, mindfulness, and travel. So please welcome to the screen another one of our Metastatic Baddies, Lesley Glenn.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
How are you?
Well, I am currently in Hawaii, actually, visiting family with a family situation. So I am sweating my butt off. I walk around with frozen washcloths on my neck. You would never think I was born and raised here because I do not do humidity at all.
Well, we're glad that you're here with us tonight, even with the circumstances. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being patient and understanding. I really appreciate you guys. So I'm excited for what we're going to do today, and just a little bit of background. Before breast cancer, I ran a nonprofit where I did therapeutic art, and I took it into the prison systems in Southern California. And I after I was diagnosed with metastatic disease, I had to let go of my nonprofit because we all know that it is a lot of work.
Yes.
And it's just in this past year or so, I've been really encouraged to bring the therapeutic art into the cancer community. And so I'm working on a project called Project Life MBC. Our website will have a soft launch in the next week, but we're basically building a virtual wellness house for those living with metastatic breast cancer. And I'm super excited about it. And one of the rooms is the art studio where we will be giving therapeutic art classes for our Metastatic Baddies. So I'm super excited about what's going to transpire. So if you have a piece of paper and some crayons, or if you don't even have crayons, if you just have a pen or a pencil, we're just going to make this really quick. And we're going to do something called drawing our breath.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be very abstract. It's going to be very present-minded. And so all we're going to do is, let me grab my prompt up here so that I can read it to you. So the art exercise will help you to be more aware of your breathing and to connect with the natural rhythms of your body. I find that doing this, even if I do it for like 5 minutes, especially during times like, you know, those of us with MBC, we have to have scans every 3 to 6 months. And even after 8 years, I still have major anxiety having to go back and get my scans all the time. And so this is just kind of a way for me to be present-minded and to just kind of go with my breath. Okay. So what we're going to do is, with any drawing medium and a piece of paper, I find that if you do this, again, to really get a large piece of paper so that you can really incorporate your whole arm into it. So there's not any right or wrong way to do this. This is all you. We're not going to share it. We're not going to show anybody, but this is just for yourself. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to place your crayon, your colored pencil in the middle of your paper. And just close your eyes. And what we're going to do is you're just going to follow your breath with your crayon. So inhale, maybe your crayon or marker goes up, exhale, down. Maybe you're feeling a little nervous, and so maybe your breath is going to be more erratic. But just kind of feel where your breath is and just let your writing media just flow over the paper. Maybe you have squiggle lines. Maybe you are finding that you're filling up your paper with big, large circles. Maybe all of a sudden your breath starts to go down and then up. Notice how you're feeling as you're making these lines of drawing your breath. Maybe you want to change colors. I find that when I do this, I find that I start off with my breath being a little erratic, but then as I get and I really focused on my breathing, that all of a sudden my movements will start to get a little softer. And this is something that, you know, you can do it for as long as you want. It's a good way to just kind of get out of our minds with everything else that's going on. And then when you're done, you can open your eyes. And what I like to do with these things is, if I have time, I have a hair in my mouth, I'm sorry. If I have time, is to go back and to fill in my spaces with color. So for example, I mean, this is what mine looks like. So this will at some point become like a coloring page for me that I'll just kind of pull out and start to color in. Okay. Remembering that, okay, this was my breath. And because coloring is very meditative.
It is.
And so this is our short draw your breath exercise that I hope that you might do. And
looks like an earthquake.
Wait, did you fall off your chair?
Marissa will return. We're gonna take her down and give her a chance to return. I don't know what I wanted to do hearts, but it didn't. I got away from that. Yeah, but that's nice. We can do that. Yes.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Lesley, for allowing us to breathe a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Topics. We appreciate your time tonight, and
I'm sorry I can't stay for the duration, but you know, next time we'll do like an hour's worth of some art exercises, which are super fun.
I believe it. So we love you. Sending you love and light. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Nothing ever happened, Marissa.
I was like, let me turn my camera off real quick.
I took you down. I was like, look at her.
You know, we always have to have like just one little thing that always pops up every once in a while.
Why not? Why not? So this next topic was highly anticipated. The original topic or theme for this was how do you live without feeling like you're waiting to die? And that felt really heavy. So I changed it to how do we learn to live in the present, or how our metastatic baddies learn to live in the present. Just with that in mind, Cam, is there anything that you can think of that really helps ground you in present moments?
To be honest with you, like, I just pray a lot. And I just try to take like every day, like a day at a time.
Yeah.
And stop, and self-talk. I do a lot of self-talk. Like, somebody would think that I was absolutely crazy if they heard like how I talk to myself. But, having metastatic breast cancer brings a lot of anxiety, like unknown anxiety. And so I just do a lot of self-talks, and I'm just like, girl, when I get all worked up, I'm like, girl, be thankful that you are here today. You're able to do A, B, and C. You have breath in your body, like you're able to move around. It's just not that serious. And so that's really what I do. And I just try to like have a lot of gratitude, a lot of thankfulness for like the present day.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helps me like keep myself level, and as well as my self-talks with myself. I do that quite often, but that's what I just try to do. I just try to, keep a positive mindset, and just do a lot of self-talks, a lot of prayer, a lot of reading, a lot of journaling, and that just kind of keeps me grounded to where I'm not driving myself nuts. Like, oh, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like in the beginning, it was like every day I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Oh, is tomorrow gonna be the day I'm gonna die? Is it gonna be, am I gonna live to see my birthday? Am I gonna live to see my daughter graduate? You drive yourself nuts, like thinking about it. So the best thing that I found to do was like my self-talk, my prayers, my journaling. And then I just try different things. Sometimes I just need to lay in the bed and just cry, and play my little small violin for myself. I'll lay there and just play my little violin. And then when I get over it, I'm like, girl, get yourself together. You're gonna be fine. You're breathing, you're living. Just finish out today and let that be it.
Yes. So tonight we are going to bring back a guest that I love. Last time she was with us for our Peace of Mind, our mental wellness webinar, Iana Sundari. At 27, and after 7 years of being a caregiver, Iana lost her mother to breast cancer. At 31 years old, she lost her father to brain cancer. Since then, Iana has dedicated her life to the support of caregivers and all those managing life after loss. Outside of her work as director of BIPOC Wellbeing for TDP, Iana is a birth and death doula. She is a yoga and meditation teacher and leads wellness retreats worldwide with her company, Bliss Out Retreats. She is currently traveling around the U.S. and Canada in a converted school bus with her husband and pit bull, writing about racial injustice on her blog, namasteusa.blog, and talking about designing your life post-pandemic on her podcast, The Collective Reset. Please welcome our topic expert for learning to live in the present, Iana Sundari.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We're so excited to have you here with us tonight.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I hope my Wi-Fi is okay. I'm sitting in the bus in the desert of California right now, so I'm hoping that I can stay connected, but I'm here, so.
Yeah, we're so glad that you could be here.
Yes.
And Marissa, would you like to introduce our patient topic expert for this segment?
Yes. So from our patient perspective, we will have Stephanie Walker. Stephanie Walker was diagnosed in July of 2015 with de novo metastatic breast cancer. Stephanie is a registered nurse with close to 40 years of clinical practice and secondary teaching experience. Her experience has included pediatric and adult critical care, working in level 1 trauma centers for critical access hospitals. The last 15 years of nursing, she has worked in hospice, end-of-life care. She is married and lives in Tarboro, North Carolina, with her husband, John, and rescue dog, Sammy. They have 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren. Stephanie is a member of the Metastatic Breast Cancer Alliance, Living Beyond Breast Cancer volunteer, Coleman volunteer, recipient of the Spirit to Impact Award, and member of multiple other organizations. Her advocacy has come largely since 2018, when she attended her first national breast cancer event, Living Beyond Breast Cancer's Conference on Metastatic Breast Cancer. Stephanie keeps busy advocating for men and women in rural areas, including the area she lives in now, and for equal access to quality health care, treatment modalities, and resources. So please, it is our honor to welcome Stephanie Walker to the screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for
Hey.
this opportunity to share and talk and learn.
We're happy to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with a question for Iana, because when we said that we were going to have a birth and death doula, there are some ears went up. Everyone's like, what is that? Stephanie's with it.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? So tell us a little bit about your work and how you help people in these different areas of their lives.
Yeah. So first, I think it's important to know the originality of the word, or the origin of the word. So doula comes from the Greek language, meaning to serve. And so in essence, the person who is the doula is there to serve the situation that they are attending. I work as a birth and death doula. And so I became one because I'm a firm believer in assisting people through a transition, and doing so in a way that allows them to transition with grace and on their terms. And so when it comes to death doula work, I work kind of in a three-prong way. It's either with the individual who's passing and transitioning. Not everyone wants to be solely surrounded by their family. Not everyone has family. Some people are looking to die in a different way that has been culturally accepted in their family. Some people just want someone to hold their hand. And so my range of work for them can be from singing to them, to aromatherapy, to massage, also to planning out the service and ceremony that they would like, absent of the opinions of others in their family and tribe, making sure that they've said what they want to say before they pass, and that they've been able to do what they are able to do before they pass. Also, sometimes it's laundry, and it's setting up your estate planning. It really is anything that that person needs. I also work with the family, and that's because a lot of people don't know the signs of what's to come. They've been listening to doctors and now would like a more spiritual approach to what's about to happen. They're looking also to allow the space for the person who's transitioning to do so in the way that feels good for them, but they don't know how to set that up. Sometimes it's me doing the dishes so that they can sit with that, with the person who's transitioning. So it's really to serve. I also work as a death doula for organizations, and that really is about, especially in 2020 and 2021, what we saw where there were organizations where we really ignored people's personal life in the past, and we're unable to do that now with everyone working remotely. And what used to be able to be kept at home is now outside of your door. And for most people, that encompasses grief and loss right now. And so if you're an organization that's looking to have employee performance and productivity, then you also have to address and handle people's grief and loss. And so those are my three ways of death douling.
Yes. So we thought that when it comes to learning to live in the present, well, personally, and this is from an early stage of perspective, but I feel like we also have to tackle the aspect of death in that, because it seems like that's where the anxiety is coming from, right? So the idea of how can someone live instead of waiting to die. With metastatic disease, things can turn quickly. And we've seen that happen with some of our friends. How can women live every day without feeling like they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop?
It's a good question. I think, one of the things that I try to impart to clients and to people I'm working with is there's no reason to ignore the elephant in the room. Ignoring the elephant in the room is what causes anxiety and stress. Right. You are, in a sense, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That is okay. There is nothing that's going to make that go away. right? The ways that people tend to do that is they tend to weaponize positivity against themselves. They tend to, I'm going to pretend like this isn't happening so that I can feel good. I think what has to happen in these moments is that I am going to do this in spite of. And so I am going to search out joy. I'm going to search out peace. I'm going to search out ways to live in spite of the fact that I also wait for the other shoe to drop. In spite of the fact that I am anxious, in spite of the fact that I may not be here, in spite of the fact that someone has told me that there is an uncertainty to my own transition. I think when we can live with the in spite of, we are much kinder and gentler with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love
kind of like what Cam was saying earlier about how she kind of just has those self-talks with herself.
Yeah.
And it's like, and just living day to day, taking that day for what it is, and then moving on to the next.
Absolutely. I think what she said about talking to yourself, that is real. I think that for so many of us, when we take even the health out of it, so many of us didn't have childhoods where we were taught how to self-soothe, childhoods where we were taught how to deal with what is the roller coaster of grief, which is what you are experiencing, and how to manage ourselves, right? We're often not the best masters of ourselves. And so I think some of that self-talk, and I suggest this often, I do it to myself, is I talk to myself like I'm a child, right? And yes, if someone is watching, I probably look crazy. But in the moment, and I suggest this to people, is to find the voice that you needed to hear and to talk to yourself that way. Oftentimes, our biggest critic is the parent's voice. That was the biggest critic. Mm-hmm. And we will repeat that voice, and then we assume that voice is real, right? There are moments when we have to say to ourselves, baby, you are going to be okay in this moment.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm going to let you feel good in this moment. You deserve this. You know, there's a real thing to the brain has to become rewired. And talking to yourself, affirmations are a way of hitting the subconscious, right? The subconscious is that voice that's just always lingering. Mm-hmm. And so when I hear that voice, I tell my clients, when you hear that voice that's scaring the shit out of you, sometimes you have to scare it back, right? Mm-hmm. It's not always like, we can love and light, and that's great, but sometimes it has to be like, shut the fuck up, not today.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm not doing this. There are moments when you might need gentle and kind, and then there are moments when you might need Cardi B, and it's also knowing who you are in that moment, right? Who do I need? What parent do I need to show up?
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, like, do I need my 5-year-old self, or do I need my 15-year-old self to be here at this moment?
Yeah.
Now, Stephanie, what does it mean for you to live in the present?
Oh, God. The present. Actually, that's really been hard for me to live in the moment, because a type A personality, it's like things have to click together all the time. And of course, being diagnosed metastatic breast cancer, the control freak that I know I am, I'm really not. So I kind of like have to do the things that several of you have talked about. Talk to yourself. I thought I was the only one that did that. But I answer, though. I don't know about you guys. I answer.
Answering's good.
Yeah, well, sometimes those answers aren't what you wanted to hear either. But anyway, so with that being said, no, to actually live in the present, I truly do. I have to get up every morning and tell myself that I'm going to have a good day. Nobody's going to steal my joy. And it's hard. It really is hard when I miss people. This pandemic has made it extremely difficult to live in the present, because I lose track of time. When you're at home all the time, you don't care if it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. You know, that day that you walk around in your pajamas all day. You know, who really cares? But to be in the present, I really do have to reel myself back in and live each day, as Cam said, each day to its fullest, every single day. And every single day I get up and I tell myself, I'm going to have a good day. even though, you know, I'm in pain and have to take something for pain or something. I'm going to have a good day. Living in the present today. I'm going to do all I can today. Not guaranteed tomorrow by any means. So I live each day to the fullest. Every day. Every day.
Yes. So, Iana, the idea of living in the present, I think that can be hard for all of us in general, just in society, how fast things are going with technology. We're always receiving information. But for someone living with metastatic disease, and that disease affects so many different aspects of their life, when our thoughts are starting to get away from us, what are some techniques that we can use to ground ourselves in the moment?
I think one of the first things, and I'm sure everybody knows this, is breath work. Right now, what I suggest about breath work, though, is that you learn all of them to figure out which one applies to where you are in that moment. So there are breath work practices that are good for when you are feeling anxious and want to feel more tethered, right? There are breath practices for when you're feeling really sluggish and down and need to have more energy or prana running through the body. If you practice one, it's hoping that it fixes all of them, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So learn them all and get comfortable with them all so that you have in your tool belt, oh, I need to feel more grounded. This is the breathing practice that works best for me. I suggest meditation. And again, I suggest finding the meditation practice that works for you. Not everybody is made to sit with their legs crossed and close their eyes. One, your body might not feel good in that at all, right? The other side of that is that there are people who, when they're not good at something, then they feel bad about themselves for not being good at something. And then it's this cycle, which you shouldn't be meditating feeling shitty about yourself, right? So if you learn different meditation, again, for where are you in that day, there are walking meditations, right? There are art meditations. There are meditations that are verbally speaking out loud. Figuring out which one. The goal of it is to be able to calm down your mind, because the mind will listen to whatever you tell it, right? And so it will continue to go and go and go and go. It's like a hamster on a wheel. And in yoga, we call it monkey brain. The monkey swings from tree to tree. That's what it does for people who aren't facing trauma. Now, if you are facing trauma, imagine how crazy your monkey is, right? It's just flipping all over the place. And so you have to intentionally create time to take the monkey down and give it a seat. And the only way that happens is by meditation. Meditation is also giving you the silence to figure out, where am I in this moment? You are not what you were an hour ago. You are not what you were yesterday. And so what you are going to need to get yourself present is going to change. I suggest making a fishbowl. This is what I always suggest for people who are new to practices, right? So for someone like me, I'm 40 years old. I've been practicing my whole life. I've gotten really adept at this is what I need in this moment. For those who are new to it, I suggest creating a bowl, a hat, write down all the different practices: deep breathing, counting breathing, walking meditation, drawing meditation, dance, all of these different things that you think might bring you joy or peace. And when you're having a moment, you pick something out of the bowl. That's the thing that you have to do. What it does is it takes you out of the having to choose what I need, right? It allows you to be parented in that moment. The bowl told me I need to go take a walk. Because when you are stressed out and traumatic, you shouldn't also have to figure out how to fix yourself all the time. You know? So the bowl can be really helpful. I also believe in putting messages up, writing things down and putting them around the house. Sometimes saying it to yourself is not enough. Sometimes you need to read, right? You are okay. It is okay to be sad today. Sometimes that's what you need to read. But sometimes you need to read, get up, put on some makeup, brush your hair, go eat something, right? Put them in different places. People in your house might think you're nuts. Who cares? You're dealing with something they're not, right? But you should be able to walk up to something and see it, and maybe you say it out loud, but it becomes stronger than you in the midst of freaking out, trying to get over the hump and parent yourself and get yourself there.
Yes. Those are
So I think those would be my suggestions is to, if you are feeling adept and comfortable at it, then great, parent yourself, do all of these things. But if you feel like you need extra help, create your bowl of goodness, put up your affirmation words, and let somebody else, it's kind of like the universe be in charge of figuring out what you need.
Yeah, I love that. Those are good things.
Yes. So Cam and Stephanie, at this time in your life, with everything that you have going on, what are your non-negotiables for peace?
Drama. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether it's my family, whether it's my friends, I'm not with the drama. Like, I don't have drama other than something medically related to my diagnosis. So if it's anything like that I didn't cause, doesn't have anything to do with me, don't bring it my way. Negativity,
that's a big one.
goodbye.
Exactly.
Like, I will cut you slam off.
Mhm.
I don't care who you are. I told my family, 2021, I am moving in silence. And if you do something that disturbs my peace, I don't care who you are. I am cutting you off. And I'm going to learn to love you from a distance.
You know, and I did that when I was diagnosed. I cut a lot of people out because at that time I decided I wanted to be negative. I mean, not negative. I wanted to be positive. But I had a friend that kept reminding me of something I said in my past as a hospice nurse. She said, "Remember, you said you would never, ever, ever do chemo after taking care of these hospice patients." She said, "You never, but you're doing it. So how can you go back on your word? You know, you said you weren't going to do it." And, you know, you sit there and you think about it because it is something I said. I know what people go through. I mean, even before I was diagnosed with cancer and dying and chemo. So I had to go back, and this is the honest to God truth, best friend. If God had sent me an email, a text, snail mail, left me a voice message and said, "Stephanie, in 4 months, baby girl, you're going to go down with cancer." So I would have had that 4-month period to research other options. That didn't happen. I was in the fight for my life. My daughter was pregnant, high risk pregnancy. She was told she would never have kids at the age of 35, 36. She would never have kids. So she was pregnant. My thing there was to remain positive at all times. And God, please just take me to December to see the baby being born. That's all I would ask for. Me and her finally have gotten back to being friends, but I have cut everybody out of my life being negative. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. I don't want it on my plate. I'm anxious enough that I can build my own plate with stuff on it, move it around when I have to. I don't need your BS, period.
So I think that brings up another great question, Iana, and this idea of learning to live in the present and finding peace.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find peace when you are making decisions counter to what the people around you may want you to do?
Ooh, that's good. I see it a lot in my death doula work of people who are wanting to live the rest of their physical life on their terms and transition from this life on their terms. I tell my clients all the time, not my circus, not my monkeys, right? They are no longer part of the decisions that you need to be making. You have lived up until this point making decisions that include a whole lot of other people. And if there's ever a time to be inherently selfish, this is the time. And I think it's changing. Even saying the word selfish makes me bristle. If there's ever a time to love the shit out of yourself, it is right now. And so to me, I do think I love what Cam said. I love what Stephanie said, excuse me. There has to be a certain amount of being okay with pissing people off and being okay with making people uncomfortable. And what is going to absolutely happen as you transition, and I say that in terms of there is a shift that has happened when you've been diagnosed. There is a shift that happens as you continue to care for your health. Those are all transitions. You are changing as a person. It's not just your health, right? You are becoming different versions of yourself at each and every time. And all of those versions are valid and are necessary in order to manage the life that you're living. Nobody else can understand that. And it's not your job to explain it to them. And it is not your job to spend your time that you have here trying to train other people on what to do. Now, what is the truth is that people have been used to you as a certain way up until this point. And so it will bother them when you start to change. And you will be shocked at how people do not understand, just shut my mouth and keep it moving. You will have to become the barrier of yourself, right? I liken it to like the Iron Man suit. Like you have to suit up and become impervious to other people's opinions. Who cares? Who cares? You know, with all of the people whose deathbeds I have sat on, not one of them was like, I sure wish I had done more for so-and-so. I sure wish I had lived my life more for so-and-so. None of them. Everybody's wish is that I wish I had listened to myself more.
Yeah.
That is every single person's wish. I wish I had listened to myself more. I wish I had lived bigger. Right? I wish I had paid attention more to what I needed. And so while we're not weaponizing positivity or looking for silver linings, because that's annoying as shit, that's not at all what I'm asking you to do. However, what I find beautiful about people who are dealing with, I don't want to call it a health crisis, with health shifts, is that unlike the rest of people who are living blindly with no parameters on knowing what's going on with themselves, and they are not stepping up and living boldly, you have been told there is a certain parameter. Maybe you've been told there's a certain date, but what at least you've been told is you've been shaken, right? Someone has shaken the shit out of you and said, this is what you have to do now, which is live and live well. And live in what makes you feel good about yourself. Every day won't be good. But if you can look back and say 3 days out of the 7 days last week, I did exactly what I wanted to do. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I was going to say live on your terms for sure.
Definitely.
That gives me, you know, that's for me, even as an early stager, that was the shift. The person that I was before diagnosis versus the person that I was after diagnosis. And now it's like, yo, and even not having the parameter, for me, it's still been like, you never know. We have to.
You never know.
You never know.
We're now sitting in a pandemic, right? There's this extra, I don't know. And really, nobody knows at this point.
Right.
It makes you more angry too. Makes you angry that you don't have that. You can't go do it. I'd made up my mind I could. Now I can't. You know, and it's rough. It is. Time. It's hard.
Before we log off, what advice do you ladies have for other women because you guys are Cam, you were an early stager and then you became a metastatic baddie. Stephanie, you were always a metastatic baddie. So you guys have different perspectives on this. So what would be your best advice or words of encouragement that you would have for someone that's trying to get there? Even if you don't feel like you're all the way there, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to get to a place where they can learn to live in the present?
Always believe in yourself first. Believe in yourself. Take someone with you to your appointments to write down things, because you're never going to hear it all. You're never going to understand it all. And ask questions. And if you don't like what you hear, or you're unsure of what you hear, get a second opinion. Always. Because, you know, if it weren't for people like us, they wouldn't have the job they have now.
Right.
Doctor a dime a dozen. I'm sorry. They are. They are. So find somebody that you can trust, that has your best at their heart. Always.
Love it.
And I always tell people, if you need questions or you want me to go with you to the doctor, I'd go. I'd listen in. I'll explain it. I'll dumb it down for you. Just ask questions. Never walk out and leave a doctor with the upper hand, ever.
And so to that point, we want to make sure you guys know that we do have a Facebook group called the Breast Cancer Baddies. Women come in there all the time with questions after their doctor's appointments. And there are so many women that we're almost 1,000 women in this group. There are so many women that have already been through this. So there are women that are willing to help you on the journey. Yes. So guys, we have to say goodbye to Iana. Iana, it is always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for stopping in with us tonight. And we hope to have you back again soon.
I love seeing y'all. And thank you so much for having me. Stay with your breath, ladies. You are your own best expert.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
So, Cam, we lost Stephanie. Stephanie. But Cam, what were your thoughts on what you heard from Iana? I love Iana, man.
Like, she is
the last time she was on here, like the idea that our emotions didn't have to be exclusive, that we could process being sad and angry about something at the same time, like that was mind blowing for me. I never thought of it that way. You know, when people ask how you feel, you try to come up with one word. It's hard to be like, I feel all of this. So what was that information from Iana?
Yeah, she is very dope. I mean, I have never met someone where I agreed with like everything that they said. And it's crazy that she, you know, is not dealing with the disease yet. She fully understands. I mean, thoroughly understands like the emotions. She understands everything. Like I was over here in La La Land. It was like music to my ears.
Yeah, she definitely had some really good points. Like I loved the bowl she was talking about, putting words in there.
Right.
Like, I think that would just work for, you know, anybody, especially like if you're just going through a hard time and you could just be like, okay, let me reach in this bowl and see what it is, because it helps you get to that next step, because it's hard, like you said, to be thinking about what is it that I should be doing. Like I know there are some things that I should do to maybe flip my mood, but it's hard to get there. So to be able to have those affirmations or that bowl, like that's priceless.
I love it. Love it. I'm so glad she could join us again tonight. That is amazing.
We definitely have to have her back again for sure.
Yes, have her all the time. Like she was talking, I was like, I wish I could have you in my pocket and just tell me what I need to do right now. All right, so we are going into our last session for the evening. And this one was the heart of Natalia Green, one of our MBC Baddies, one of our OG MBC Baddies at that. Estate planning. And estate planning sounds so very big. And so Natalia wrote a blog called Your Last Gift. And this is information, this is really how we want to help our community moving forward as we try to bridge the gap between the early stagers and the metastatic community. The reality is that 30% of early stagers will become metastatic. The information and the guidance you're getting here tonight is not something that isn't appropriate for someone in any stage of their life. So if you are an early stager and you haven't learned about estate planning, this is still a very important session for you. Now,
even if you haven't been diagnosed with, it's like these are plans that you should be making regardless. And like you said, Jasmine, something that we just don't necessarily talk about as a community.
Right.
As a whole. And these are things that we should be talking about, especially some of us who are getting up there in age. We should definitely be making these plans for our loved ones so they don't have to make these plans at the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So, and then especially like having experienced loss and being on the other side of what happens when things are not in order, it kind of reinforces the importance of this stuff. But I don't think some people know where to start. And so that's where this conversation is tonight. We're going to talk about where to start, what kind of things you need to be thinking about. And to help us have this conversation, we're going to bring in our Latina metastatic baddie, Natalia Green. She was diagnosed in 2017 and diagnosed metastatic 2019. She lives in Salt Lake City, Utah with her husband and her 2 children. She has a passion for public service, advocacy in the breast cancer community. She is a typical Gemini with many passions, but she loves to cook, the outdoors, movies, book, and family. Books and them, not a book, books. And let's welcome Natalia Green to the stage.
Hey. Ooh, I love your glasses.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I said the same thing when she popped in. I sent her in the chat. I was like, cute specs.
You know what? This is really embarrassing to admit, but why not admit it to people that I love? These are the blue glasses. Like my prescription has changed after all these treatments I've been going through over the last 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like if I don't have some on my face or makeup on, like I look really sorry on camera. So I'm like, I'll throw these on right now.
Well, we love them.
They make me feel better. So
yeah, they're cute.
Super cute.
And with Natalia to talk tonight, she is bringing a good friend of hers, Daniel Riley. Daniel Riley is an attorney at the firm of Curry, Pearson, and Wooten in Phoenix, Arizona. He managed a legal clinic supporting victims of domestic violence from 2012 until 2014. Since that time, his practice has focused exclusively on family law and estate planning. So please welcome Daniel Riley to the screen.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Hi.
Good.
Now, Dan actually helped Natalia with her estate planning, correct? No. What's the connection here? Because you helped connect us to Dan.
Dan and I go way back, even before. So my husband's an attorney as well. And even before my husband became an attorney or went to law school, we knew Dan, and Dan was going through law school. So
wow, that is way.
Yes, so I've known Dan for a long time, and he's fantastic.
Did you guys go to college together?
We all worked at a call center together.
Wow, so you came up together, the glow up.
Yes, we did the glow up together. And then we all graduated from ASU, at least for our graduate or your GDs. But Marissa's son goes to ASU. He's a freshman.
That's great.
Yeah. I know I see Phoenix, Arizona. I was like, oh, got somebody from Arizona on the screen.
Now, Dan, at the very basics of estate planning, what kind of decisions should people expect to make during that process?
So really, we're looking to answer 3 questions. Who do you trust? Because your estate planning is going to give different people in your life a lot of power. How do you want your things to be divided, and when do you want your things to be divided? Especially if you've got children, you wouldn't necessarily be giving them their inheritance. If you've got a 7-year-old, you're not going to give them their inheritance right away. So a lot of times we phase that out so that they're receiving it over time. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Are there things, someone asked, like they were a single mother, and we actually have a lot of single baddies. We have a lot of single metastatic baddies, unfortunately. Are there things single mothers should be thinking about as they go through this process that maybe a married couple wouldn't think about?
It's not necessarily that there's a distinction between a single parent and a married couple. The distinction really is between parents who have another parent that is trustworthy and parents who don't have that. So whether someone is single or they're married, if the other parent of their child is someone that they trust, who they know is going to be a good caretaker, who is going to be a good conservator for the children, then the estate planning is going to look pretty similar to if I'm doing an estate planning for a married couple. Where things get really complicated is when the other parent isn't necessarily going to be someone who would be a great caretaker. It's not necessarily someone that you would want to trust administering the estate on behalf of the children. So in those cases, we can put in a lot of controls about who is going to be the guardian for the child. The difference between a conservator and a guardian is the caretaker. That's the person that provides a roof for the child, that is taking them to school and doctor's appointments. They're the person who's really stepping into your shoes and becoming a substitute parent. The conservator is the person who is managing whatever money is coming the way of the children. It can be the same person, and often it is the same person. So that's the distinction between those two things. If I'm doing estate planning for a married couple, the assumption is the other parent obviously would be the guardian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know that there was a difference. So that's really interesting. That's really good to know.
Yeah, we use all these specialized terms in the law, and it can be really frustrating because if you're not inside the field of the law, we use terms that are the use that we give them is completely different from their normal everyday use. So if you're sitting down with an attorney, they should be explaining this stuff to you instead of just throwing terms out at you and not giving you context.
Okay. And is that usually determined by the parents when they're setting up their estate planning, or sometimes does the state have to step in?
So the state would step in if there's no one available to be a guardian. So, for example, if the other parent is incarcerated, or if they have severe mental health or substance abuse issues where they're just not an appropriate caretaker for the child, then you look first to what did the mom say she wanted as far as a guardian for the child. And if there is no estate planning, then the child is typically going to be taken into a foster situation until the juvenile court can figure out where is this child going to be placed. And they always prefer to place with a family member. So if there's an aunt or an uncle, a grandparent, especially it's been kind of pushed out of the news in the last year, but I still see it quite a bit in my practice. We're still going through a major opiate epidemic in the country. And so it can sometimes be hard to find a caretaker within a family to take care of a child. And it's a really sad situation.
And I think that kind of reinforces, I can't tell you guys personally, I think this is probably something my mom just started figuring out for herself, and my dad, but I don't know a lot of people that have done estate planning. But I think when you think about how sudden life can change, it really kind of reinforces the importance of having things in order, whether you're 30 or 98, wanting to make sure that things go the way that you want them to go. So for Natalia, so we've talked to you a couple of times. You've always said that you're very comfortable talking about death, and you're probably more comfortable than a lot of people around you. So what was it like starting this process? How did you feel starting this process, and how did you feel when it was complete?
Well, after my husband graduated law school, it's just kind of one of those things I think graduated law students know they can do. It might take them a while. So it was always on the agenda to do. But of course, you're in your 20s and you think you're invincible. So you keep putting it off. Mm-hmm. And my brother, who's just a year older than I am, he died at 29 of cancer. And he just had started a new family. He had a 2-year-old son and a wife that he'd been married to for maybe 3 or 4 years. So everything was really new. So after I got pregnant, that's when I felt like, holy shit, I need to do something about, because I have life insurance through my work. My husband has life insurance. What do we want to have happen if something were to happen to either one of us or both of us? And so that kind of shot us into gear about getting our estates kind of planned out. But it really wasn't until you listen to the questions that they ask you, like if my husband wasn't available or couldn't be available, or let's say even the reality, emotionally handled, giving my directives out, like who can I entrust to actually like fulfill those things? And so, and you guys have met my husband. He's been on here. He's a sensey guy, so he might not be able to handle some of those things after I pass. And also just kind of thinking about the future, it was very comforting to put something down on paper to plan for the future of our children and for himself and others in our family if something were to happen to us. It's none of that wondering or what if. It almost felt like it's a backup plan.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Cam, have you done any estate planning or living wills?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are like specific things that I want done. However, I know certain people in my family don't agree. And so, I felt like that's the only way to kind of respect my wishes is to have that in place.
Yeah.
So speaking of living wills, who in here has one? I think I did one a while ago, but I don't know. I don't know where it is. You don't have one yet, Marissa? I need to update it. I don't know where it is.
I kind of do. When I was diagnosed, I mean, it wasn't anything that I would say is formal, but I just wrote everything down just in case because I wasn't sure. My son was a minor at the time, so to make sure that I had somebody that would take care of him, some of like my wishes and everything, that somebody would just know just in case. And then I had it notarized. And Dan, I don't know if that is something that legally would stand up or not, but I was just like, let me just get this out just in case.
So I think the living will, I think that one specifically, like what happens if you become incapacitated, right? Is that the living will? Yes.
So a living will it's a directive to the medical staff about what's to happen if you are incapacitated. It's terminal. You're not going to wake up.
Got it.
So you talked about that in your blog, Natalia. What you and the hubs, were you on the same page about what you wanted to happen?
Yes, we are. Which is really difficult because my family isn't necessarily. So, I come from a really overbearing Latina family. Like they're just going to want their way. So it was really important for me, especially after being diagnosed with cancer, to really put in what I wanted to have done. And my husband and I had long conversations about it, and to make sure, if you want to be on life support forever, there's someone in my family that could do that for you. And I knew, or if there's someone that, will pull the plug for you, you need to know someone in your family that will do that for you too, and it's nothing against them, but it's just exactly what I want. And, it's numbers and being prepared.
Natalia's mic go off?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. My sister was calling me. She's trying to sound my phone.
You said it's numbers. Go back there.
I find comfort in numbers. Like I like that there's something in paper. I like that there's a preparedness about it. And I'm not a person of faith. I've talked about this in the past, and my family is. And so, especially when it comes to like arranging the funeral plans, like I kind of feel like when I'm done, I'm out. Like there won't be part of me that lingers on. So I need to do things that are comfortable for my own family, for when I pass, to help their grief. And sometimes some of the things I think that maybe my family would want to do just by instinct because they're very religious is maybe something that won't bring peace to my family, my own immediate family. So I like knowing that that's there. And then also talking to my family about it, just saying like, it's written, it's basically in stone. So you can come to a funeral or you don't have to, but this is how it's going to be. Right. And they're very responsive to that. This is not like a surprise to them that I want different things in my life than what they would expect at their own funeral. So they're not very surprised about that, but it's just nice knowing that it's there and it's done.
Yes. So then, are there resources for women that understand they need to do estate planning, but they're not sure where to start. Are there resources where women can do free estate planning?
Actually, AARP has a great website for doing living wills. So if you Google AARP free living will, I think it'll be the first hit that'll come up on Google. And what's great about their site is that it's state specific. So each state has a little bit different template for their living wills. And that's important because the medical staff, they're used to seeing living wills in a specific format. So if you come in with a living will from a different state, they may have to run it up to their legal department, and it can create a bit of a fiasco. So that's actually a great site to do a free living will. With the other estate planning, so the actual will itself, powers of attorney, unfortunately, there's no central website I can point you to or any great database where you can get forms to do that on your own, which is frustrating. Unfortunately, that's one of the issues we come up against a lot in the law is that there aren't good free legal resources for people. But a lot of attorneys will do free consults. I do free consults to at least give people the information they need to point them in the right direction.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. Those are great to have those type of resources, especially just because I know a lot of us don't know where to go or what to turn to. Dan, when in your practice with like family law and doing some of the estate planning, would you say, are you starting to see more individuals of color come in and do this? Or is this something that, we need to do as a community, like more outreach and more information regarding it?
I've seen 3 really interesting trends in the last year. And I don't know how much of it is that we're living through a pandemic. But the 3 things that I've seen in my practice are more people of color are coming in to do their estate planning. Younger people are coming in, and people are much more likely to choose as the guardians for their children non-family members. So they're choosing people who share their values, who don't necessarily share a family relationship. And those are 3 new trends that I've seen in my practice. And I don't know how much of that is just the influence of COVID, but I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it does have to do some of it with COVID too, because I think a lot of people, unfortunately are getting sick, especially young people, and they're passing away, and then they're kind of seeing how their family members or friends, how that situation was being handled, and thinking to themselves, like, that's not how I want my situation to be handled.
For sure. And then I think with the political climate as well, I think this generation, or the millennial generation, I think we're starting to see those big clashes generationally. So I am not surprised to hear that a lot of people are opting not for their parents. At the same time, I feel like now I need more friends, because I would definitely choose my mom though, my mom and my dad. But somebody is like, you do need to have people around you that you can trust. So.
It is definitely I've had clients tell me flat out it's a culture clash, because they don't want their children. They love their parents, but they don't necessarily want their parents to raise their children, because they have just such a different view, especially parents of LGBT youth, that their parents are just a different generation, and they maybe think they wouldn't be a good fit to raise their children if something was to happen, and that some other non-family member who is a close friend would be a better fit.
I think I'd also suspect that. I was actually on a call today. I think that in a generational change is that we're now living in this new generation that likes to share everything. So it's talking about death might not be as taboo as it was before. Where, like, when I talk to my older brother who's in his 40s, or my mom, like, they don't want to even put that out there that I might die. I'm just like, Mom, I have stage 4 cancer. This is what's going to happen. And I think that is becoming it's not contentious, but I think that's where I see the biggest differences in our community is some people from a different generation might not feel good. They always want to say, I'm not putting it out there. I'm going to live as long as I can. And someone like me is like, I'm going to hope for the best or prepare for the worst,
Yeah, I agree with that too.
So it's like the term estate planning, I think for a lot of people, it may sound very intimidating. Dan, what would your best advice be for someone that just wants to get their stuff in order, but they're a little nervous about what the process entails?
Well, I'm going to steal what Stephanie said at the last conversation. I really like what she said about going to medical appointments. Bring a friend, and if you don't like what you hear, or if it doesn't sound right, get a second opinion. Go talk to a second attorney. I think that was excellent advice that translates just as well from the medical issues to legal issues. Most of us who do estate planning, we view ourselves as being more of a helping profession, because it's not combative, it's not plaintiff versus defendant stuff. So our goal is to sit down and help people, not to act like the lawyers you see on TV.
Well, I think it's great. I think it's good that we're having this conversation. I know that, Natalia, when you had wrote your blog, it was definitely eye-opening, even just for myself and Jasmine, us reading it, and then some of the other women that read it as well. And I know, Dan, you helped out with that too. So it was just great to see. I would just suggest to anybody that's watching, we'll repost it again on our Facebook page and in our private group, so you could take a look. And they broke it down to you, different types of steps. And they did leave some resources in there for you as well. And Dan gave us some good resources. We'll make sure to include those too. So then that way, if you want to start the process or even just take a look and research, because research is a big thing too.
Yes.
You can do that as well.
And Natalia, how about you? Any best advice you have for a metastatic baddie who has not started the estate planning process?
I don't know. I just think that, just like anything else, the same thing that I would tell my parents or my mom, I tell her now, we don't want things to be contentious when someone passes away. And Dan made it perfect said it perfectly in the blog post, is that like we're leaving this last gift to our family to let them know how we want to rest or, transition to the next life or whatever you believe. And so I think that, going through, before my brother passed away, I didn't attend any funerals that really didn't involve someone who was like, much, much older. And it wasn't a contentious situation, but I just felt sad that I didn't know what he wanted. And maybe his family didn't. And we just had to trust each other that this is what he wanted. I think, so when I pass, I hope that things are kind of spelled out a little bit and I don't have to burden people with certain decisions because they're already decided.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Well, Natalia and Dan, thank you so much for your time tonight. We so appreciate it. Baddies, Dan said he does free consultations. Okay. So let's just get our affair. And I think like if this last year has shown us anything, it's how unpredictable life can be, whether you're metastatic or not. I think it's good to spell out things the way you would like them for yourself, for your children, for your family.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, thank you, Dan and Natalia. We appreciate you joining us this evening and for all the information. And I'm sure that we will talk to you again soon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
All right. Did you guys learn anything new? Cam, did you learn anything new?
I learned a lot of new things. I did. I really enjoyed this.
Good.
Glad that you could join us. Any highlights from tonight, ladies, as we get ready to wind down our last couple of minutes?
I mean, definitely the doula. Like, we love her always, but all the tips that she gave was definitely awesome. We should just do a separate Baddies talk back with her and, everybody at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm slacking. I feel like I need to pick back up and get the estate planning stuff in order. And also I think after hearing from Natalia, I don't really feel like, it doesn't feel like so heavy to me now, because I think a part of me was a little apprehensive. It's like, it's about death and death and death. But I think when you really just put it in terms of like, if something happens to me, I just want to take that pressure off my family and be able to provide them with that peace. I love that framework. So yes. And the fact that it doesn't sound as labor intensive,
Yeah.
It sounds like a really, really big thing, but it sounds like it's a little bit more straightforward than lots of questions, lots of deep things to think about, but perhaps not as complicated as I assumed it would be.
Anything else that you learned, Cam?
I don't think so. I really, really enjoyed. I don't want to. How do you pronounce her first name?
Iana.
That was like my favorite. That was my favorite part. That was very enlightening and refreshing. So I really enjoyed like everything. I had never heard of a death doula before. So that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
About her.
Yeah, I enjoyed her energy, her spirit. She had really good vibes. I really enjoyed that.
Good. Well, we hope for all of the women who are men, everybody that's been watching, especially our Metastatic Baddies, we hope that, you learned something from this today and can take this back into your life. I definitely want to give a huge shout out to my work wife, Jasmine, because she did a lot of work behind the scenes for this, especially towards the end of the holidays. And so thank you for putting this together. I know we'll definitely have to do it again, but it was great. It was awesome. I learned some things too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you,
shout out to our Camila for stepping in as our co-host tonight.
Yes.
Our MBC Baddies Ambassador. And also to the MBC Baddies that helped plan this, Natalia, Deltra, and Lesley. And then we're sending love to all of them, including Noonie, who is having a really hard time right now. So sending love to our Metastatic Baddies, and we just appreciate the time and love that they put into putting this together for the community.
Yes. And thank Cam. We're going to call on you again. Don't be surprised.
I won't. I'll be waiting.
All right.
Good night,
Baddies.
Bye.
Bye.